We're live. I'm going to check.
Hello and welcome. We're going to
Hi.
start off this week's episode with prayer and a healing.
Hi. I'm going to check and see if we're on real quick.
Okay.
You can keep talking. I can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't want to
Yeah, we're
distract
on.
you. I'm also trying not to burn myself up here right quick.
Now I can't find you. Where am I
I can't. I don't know.
at? Where did I go? Oh, there I am.
Instead of where's Waldo, it's where's Lori.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. Okay, so we're going to do Reiki healing, collective Reiki healing for everyone who's feeling traumatized right now. And I'm going to start off with a prayer. Everybody close your eyes. Take a deep breath in your nose. Hold it. Breathe out, long breath. Breathe in, deep breath. Hold. Long breath out. One more time. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Okay, try to feel inside your body. Go into your heart space. And it may hurt. You may be hurting. It may feel really tight. It's okay. You can tell your heart to yourself in your mind. Tell your heart it's okay. Everything is going to be fine. And that you are loved. Tell your heart that you love it. Tell yourself that you love yourself. And I'm going to begin with the prayer. Divine Creator, you are the source and fountain of all life. I humbly invoke for divine guidance, divine healing, and divine protection with thanks and in full faith. All right. I'm going to direct Reiki to all those who feel they need this healing. And I want you to ask that all the negativity that you're feeling right now be lifted from your body. That all the fear that you are feeling be lifted from your body. All the anger that you're feeling be lifted from your body. All that negative energy that you may be feeling, lift from your body. You do not need it anymore. You don't want it. Give it up to the universal energies, to God, the source, whoever it is that you pray to, whatever you believe. Let it rise from the body and out. Let your guides, your archangels, whoever it is you want to lift that from your body. And go back into your heart. See your heart there. Tell your heart you love your heart. Love yourself. Love your soul. Feel inside your body. Feel your toes, your feet, your legs. Feel your hips, your abdomen, your back, your chest, your shoulders. Now relax all of that. Relax your shoulders. Relax the upper arms. Relax the elbows. Relax the forearms, the wrists, the hands and the fingers. Relax the neck. Relax the bottom part of your chin, the top part of your jaw, the nose. Relax your eyes. Relax your head. And imagine a funnel on the top of your head. That is your crown chakra. And see all that negative energy flowing away in through that tunnel and up. You're giving that all to God, the source, archangels, whoever it is that you want to call upon. All that dark black energy going away from your body. Go back into your heart space. And know that everything's going to be okay, no matter what. Sit with that for just a minute. Take a deep breath. Let it out. Relax. Take another deep breath. Let it out. Relax. Take one more deep breath. Let it out. Sit still for just one more minute here. It's all going to be okay. You may feel a little warm sensation around your body, like a hug. You may feel a little tingling sensations. That's the Reiki energy enveloping you, helping you feel comforted and supported. If you start feeling anxious, take a deep breath in and let it out. Sorry about the dogs. Okay, now we're going to come back into our body in 3, 2, 1. And slowly open your eyes. The dogs are saying, wake up. As they do every time we do healing.
Yes, they do get active.
All right, I hope that helps everybody feel a little bit better. Just need to be calm. Center yourself, take deep breaths, and ask for all the negativity and the fear and the anger to be taken away from you anytime you're feeling bad. And you can always come back to this video. This will work no matter when you watch it. Come back to the video and go back through it again if you need to.
Yes.
And you feel much better. I feel much better. So
I feel much better.
Good. All right. So fan myself. This first time we've ever done a video, so we may leave the chat, or we might leave the video. One of us will have our little avatar up. We may have to walk away for a bit while we're talking or whatever, but just to let you know we're here. And maybe one day when we have some actual viewers, we might do a live where we actually have people to talk to us.
It'll come. It'll come.
Yeah.
But I do want to qualify. I do want to qualify. We are not professionals. We are not gurus. We are two spirit sisters who found ourselves or found each other through the internet during times when we were both going through awakening processes. And we've been on this path a very long time. But I think what makes us unique or separates us from a lot of the people you'll see today doing these type of videos is that we're not going to bullshit you.
That's right.
We're not going to bullshit you. This is real. This is raw. This is everyday living, everyday people talking about everyday awakenings, the normal having to go through this process and live in this world and function as a three-dimensional human being.
Yes, absolutely right. We're just normal. Uh, we are Reiki practitioners, obviously. I do pranic healing, and I am feng shui practitioner, things like that. So we'll be talking about stuff like that too. I am I guess, an astrology hobbyist, if you'd say that, because I'm not professional at all.
You should be.
But I do use my intuition a lot on that. So, and I don't always get everything right, but I think I do try to make sure that I'm giving you the best information I can give at the time. So
She's way more credible than I am.
astrology is hard. It's hard to understand. It's very complicated sometimes.
Yeah, it is. It is. I am a practicing pagan. I'm a student of all religions, though I don't practice all types of religion. Um, I'm a Reiki master teacher. I am a licensed wedding officiant. I do tarot readings, energy readings. I do have some intuitive mediumistic abilities, and sometimes when I'm clear and coherent, I can be a channel.
Yeah, and one day we might do like a little, maybe a tarot reading or something for the energies too.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we could do that if you have your cards.
I don't have them
No?
with me right now. Mm-mm.
Okay, well,
No.
maybe when I take a break, if I go in there, I'll run and get cards and
Okay.
throw a card or something. Because originally that was going to be what this channel was going to be about, but I changed my mind, and then we decided to do this together, and I'm so happy that we did because
Nobody else I'd rather do it with.
That's right. So the other day we were talking. We actually did a whole video and didn't realize we weren't recording. And that'd be my fault because I didn't see the button that I had to push.
It is. It went the way it was supposed to go.
That's right. We had to work out a lot of kinks.
We did, yeah.
But we were talking about what do you want to start with? Past lives or solar flares? Maybe let's do current energies.
Okay, current energies.
Yeah.
You want to start us off, or you want me to start you?
Well, that'll envelop the solar flares because right now I believe we're having a huge, like an X flare right now.
We're getting literally pelted. We're getting
so
pelted. I think what we had, well, I can't remember if it was yesterday or day before yesterday, but we literally had one almost every 2 hours, and they were increasing in magnitude because we're literally at solar max right now. So, and it does affect on a physical level.
It does. I've been having headaches for the past few days, a lot of headaches, and I normally don't get them all the time. I used to years and years ago, but they stopped. But the last few days I've been having a lot of headaches. Also dreams.
Yeah.
I was reading about that, that it can cause some bizarre dreams, very vivid dreams. And I haven't dreamed in years either. I certainly don't remember them.
Gosh, that's so weird. That's so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I love my dream world. I mean, it's been off the charts here lately, but I mean, I've always enjoyed my dreams. but I would hate not to have them. Now, sometimes I know I have them and I can't remember them,
Yeah.
but I know I had them, you know?
Right.
Wow.
And also, I dream more when I sleep in the daytime, when I'm taking a nap or something, than I do at night, waking up in the morning. Um, so solar flares are also affecting our circadian rhythms as well.
Yeah. A lot of people having problems going to sleep or staying asleep or getting up, waking up. It causes they can cause extreme fatigue, digestive upsets, which my husband and I are both going through, and he's out of town right now.
Yeah.
So we're not eating the same thing. We're not even in the same environment. But he texted me and said that he was having extreme stomach upset, and I'm like, me too, bruh.
Yeah.
Me too.
Nausea. Some people are
Yep.
getting nauseated. Yeah, I've definitely been feeling different the past few days. And obviously, we have a very stressful moment right now. So that's just adding to the stress. And solar flare. But we're not gonna get into political stuff here. Not doing that. But
No,
we
no,
are to do the best we can to help you through whatever it is you're going through. Um, Everything's going to be okay.
it will be.
I know it doesn't seem that way, but it will be. Like I said, if you need to go back and come back in here and get that Reiki healing to feel better, do that. Go watch shows like ours that do this kind of stuff, the spiritual kind of stuff. Um, stay away from social media if you can, and not doom scroll and all that kind of thing, because it's just going to make you more upset and feel more out of control. Um, but anyway, we get back to. Do we want to talk about the dreams that we had? I had a weird one. I've been having a lot of weird ones, but
Oh, do tell.
that one, and it was really quick too. It was strange. It was my husband and I we were just here, and it was like going to storm. We knew it was going to storm. It got really dark, like black, pitch black dark, and we're sitting here, and I'm seeing these points of light like rain falling down and just hitting my body and going through the body, but it wasn't hurting or anything. It didn't hurt or nothing like that. And I don't know what that was. All that was. I don't remember anything else. I don't know what that was about.
Well, that sounds terribly symbolic, and I don't mean terribly in a bad way,
Yeah.
but like as if that light is burning away the material or the outer shell, and the fact that it wasn't hurting is maybe cutting loose of things that are dissolving, things that are no longer of use to you, and you know maybe that have been holding you back.
Yeah. I wasn't scared. I don't remember. I mean, at first I was when it got really dark, because I'm in life, in real life, I'm just deathly afraid of storms. But once that went through and the light was hitting my body, um, I was just like, okay. I don't know what this is.
Sounds like a huge breakthrough to me. And I know
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, especially. I mean, we are in an unprecedented awakening at this time, at this juncture. I mean, there are people that I honestly never would have thought would advance the way that they have advancing
Mm-hmm.
in this, and it really is the Great Awakening. It like across the board, all walks of life, all different types of spiritual beliefs, religious beliefs, whatever demographics. Everybody is waking up, and a dream like that to me is like kind of symbolic of that, of the burning away of the materialistic, that people's focus have shifted from being very work driven, money driven, material driven, to focusing on the inner, and being more love based, more light based.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Keep,
just saying, it's my opinion.
keep talking. I gotta go get my charger.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Okay. But anyway, so I mean, I really genuinely believe that what we're seeing now, we're in a phoenix moment, that we're seeing a burning away of all the unnecessary, of all the darkness. Because when you go through this path, when you start on it, you in the beginning it's wonderful, and you feel better than you've ever felt in your life, and then the further you progress, you start to sink, and it's what we call dark night of the soul. And you go through it, and they really never end. But what you have to keep in mind is when things seem at their darkest, just like those points of light that she saw in her dream. But when things start to go dark during the dark night of the soul, that is when the light is beginning to penetrate. And that is when you come out on the other side of it is where most of your growth takes place. Because if you start on this path and everything's happy, wonderful, great, and it always stays that way, you have absolutely no incentive to grow. You'll stay in that plateau of fluffy bunny, I guess, for lack of a better word. But these dark nights of the soul, these storms and things like that are actually what catapults us forward into further growth, spiritually, mentally, physically. It catapults us into self-healing. So when you do have that darkness, don't panic, because it's literally it's going to happen right before your biggest breakthroughs. It's
Yeah.
right there before your biggest growths.
Yeah, and you can actually spend almost a lifetime in a dark night of the soul.
You can.
It happens a lot, but don't get discouraged by that, because enlightenment itself is destruction. It destroys you. It destroys you and builds you back up. You
That's
build
right.
yourself back up. But it can be like we were talking about this the other day, about when we got together. We were all in a group. We woke up about the same time, or were waking up or whatever, and we got together, and it was so much fun for like a year.
Yeah, year two, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
like
mean,
we were
it
having
was
a
such
lot
a
of
high
fun.
vibe.
We were high on that energy, and we were just, and it was about, what was it, 2011, 2012 time
2012.
period.
Yeah.
And so we were all like, just, and I mean, of course, a lot of us woke up way before that. Like I was waking up in 2000, but
Yeah. I started around 2000.
yeah, but I did not have any connection to anybody or anything. I was by myself. I was all by myself, and I remember
Same.
that time period of being very angry when I woke up. That was one of the biggest things I had. I felt duped. I felt, um, lied to by the whole world when I woke up. So it was hard, and I started watching and talking to people and studying things, and that was helping me through it. But then when we got to 2011, that's when I met my soul group, you, my husband, everybody,
Yeah.
and then and we were able to have a lot of fun there for about a year or two, and then stuff started going down. But I guess we decided to come here and do this, or
We
we wouldn't be.
did. That's the biggest thing, though. You 100%, everybody who's here right now has signed up for this whole experience. And that's what it is. And you have to really take yourself out of the trauma and the drama of whatever's going on, and understand that everything that's happening right now isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. And when I say for you, I mean on a collective standpoint, that you have to tear all these little bits down, including within yourself, internally. You've got to tear all these little bits down in order to have that phoenix rising moment. And I've said before, I don't know if I've said it to you, but I've said it to a couple people, that we are in literally a phoenix and dragon type energy, where the dragon is burning it all down, burning it all to the ground, and the phoenix will rise from those ashes and to rebuild, you know.
Yeah,
So it's interesting, but what I found that's kind of changed my perspective and my perception on pretty much everything is, even during those dark night of the souls, when you feel them coming on, get excited about that, because it really does lead into a huge, for lack of a better word, spiritual growth spurt That's what you're on the cusp of when that darkness comes in, and it will happen in stages. I went through what, I don't know, what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, a complete void. And I've always been involved into spirituality, whether, I mean, even as a small child. I mean, behind me, I've had this one since 1980. It's written. Yeah, March of 1980.
Yeah.
You know, I collect Bibles. I've always been interested in religion and spirituality, but there was so many things that I questioned, even as a kid. And my parents were not religious by any means. I mean, we occasionally went to church. I mean, they believe in God and all that stuff, but they were never. I wasn't indoctrinated.
Right.
You know, so I really didn't have a whole lot of like core beliefs I had to get over. But what I was taught very firmly. And one of those things was you weren't supposed to question. But I always questioned, you know. And just reading the traditional Bible, which I have many, many times, just reading the traditional Bible was never enough for me to answer the questions that I had. And so I think around, I don't know, 2000 or so, I really started digging deep. But of course, that was before the internet was readily available in anybody's home. So, you're going to libraries, you're going to churches and things like that. I even got legally ordained in 2002 because I felt like I was called towards that. But at the same time, I also felt that maybe if I got ordained, if I joined that little club, that maybe I would get some answers to some of the questions I had. And of course, it took years, but I never had what I would call the anger over it when I did start discovering things and when I did start getting some of those answers. I didn't have any of the anger. I think mostly I was more sad than I was anything, because everything that I knew and believed in was centered around, and everybody that I knew at that time in my life too, was all centered around just this tiny little circle of belief. And as I began to grow and learn, my circle of belief began to grow with that. And it was very lonely. I think that was the biggest thing. I was very, very lonely, and still to a degree am these days, because I have never stopped this self-education on things. And I've learned stuff even within the last couple of weeks or months that I've told my husband, I wish I had somebody that I could really sit down and talk about this stuff with, that isn't gonna immediately react based on what their core beliefs are, but to actually have a dialogue.
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying what I believe is 100% right. I'm not by any means. I'm just saying what I've learned from my perspective, and I like to hear other people's perspectives on stuff, even perspective on what I believe
Yeah.
from somebody else's mouth. But most people, they don't want to have that conversation because they are so trapped inside of that. And so I think for me, it was a lot of sad rather than anger, that really there was just nobody willing to even entertain a different thought.
Yeah. Well, I was heavily Southern Baptist, and not that my family was very um, avid churchgoers or anything. I, at the age of 12, decided myself to start going to church and got saved and all those things, and became this uh, severe Southern Baptist. Like, I was into it big time.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I started coming up out of that, I was mad. but before that though, I was actually trying to find a different denomination. Like, I wanted to go to the Methodist or some other sect of religion, because it just didn't feel right. No matter where I went, I did not feel right
Right.
in where I was at. And once I got away from all of that, then I was like, this is where I belong. At least I feel like that's where I belong. But like you said, you're alone, basically,
Yeah.
especially from where we're from. We're in rural areas, and you know, people in rural areas tend to be, not always, but tend to be very close-minded, or um, they're not usually open to this kind of stuff, you know. And
And
so,
if they are, it usually comes with a bucket of guilt attached to
yeah,
it. You
yeah,
know,
and it's hard.
excuse me. But
You have like maybe like I have one in 20 miles from here, somebody that I could actually go talk to, but it took me years to find that person. It sucked.
well, I think, yeah, it does. It really does. And I've been fortunate. My family has been supportive of my different paths. I haven't had any back blow other than one or two here and there. And my mother-in-law, may she rest in peace, whatever. But, um, you know, was convinced that I was possessed by demons and stuff. But
Yeah,
anywho, I really, my problem has always been I never really fit into any of the categories. And I'm going to blame that, but not in a negative way, on the fact that I have done my research into all these different religions and all these different beliefs and practices, you know, and stuff like that. Because even though I call myself a pagan, I don't necessarily fit into even that group. And then I have some issues on that side as well, because they're, even over there are so people so close-minded, and that their way is the only way, and it can't be any different. And if you're pagan, you can't believe in certain things or do certain things or whatever. And my mama will tell you, I have never been somebody who will willingly be shoved into a box.
yeah,
So people were like, why don't you identify as Christian? Or why don't you identify as a practicing or as a witch? Or, you know, as a Norse heathen. And I'm like, because number one, Jesus wasn't a Christian. Oh, shocking. He wasn't. But, and there is documented evidence to the fact of that. But anyway, that aside too, um, I have certain aspects of that whole belief system that I believe in. And I've got certain aspects of pagan belief systems that I believe in, ranging whole way down the line of all of them. But witchcraft is not a religion. Witchcraft is a practice, you know? So I have a real hard time fitting in with anybody because of that, because I don't have those hardcore, my brain is flexible. I can bend,
yeah,
and it's really hard for me to be around others who cannot bend, you
yeah.
know?
That's about the same as me. I'm more of a deist. I believe in a higher power, whatever it may be.
Mhm.
I don't know what it is, but I believe in it because I have not seen any evidence otherwise.
Right.
Which some people might say that's stupid, but the experiences that I've had in my life has made me feel that way. But I'm not so hardcore set in my belief that I can't be shown something different. You know what I'm saying? Or be
And even entertain it, you know, see, be shown something different, and even just think about it.
yeah,
And I think that's why you and I always jihad so well, because we do have flexible minds. You know, we can entertain, even if we don't subscribe fully to it, we can entertain one another's opinions about things.
yeah. Sorry, I gotta get the dog up here. She's having a fit.
Don't you be mean to
Yeah.
my babies.
Come here. Come here. She wants to get up here where the other one's at. The other one likes to. They're sisters and they like to fight. Um, yeah. So I don't have a religion at all.
No,
What I believe in, I definitely probably I could say that if you want to call it a religion, I believe in astrology.
I believe in love. Love is my religion.
Yeah.
Love
Uh,
is my religion.
but I'm more like a deist, a mystic, um, Taoist type person. Um, there is no religion. It's just whatever, wherever I go, I try to do what I'm supposed to do and do the right thing or whatever.
Yeah, do good, be good.
But speaking of family, we were also talking, and this is going to segue into past lives. family curses and family karma.
Huge right now. Huge right
Yeah,
now.
I think that's why we are the way we are, and I think that's why everybody is starting to wake up too, because everybody on this planet, at least probably our age right now, are here to heal that karma.
Yep, clear it out. And we do that so that our grandchildren, which you have grandchildren and I've got grandchildren, are able to go forward without carrying those generational curses. Because, like we were talking about, giving it in the context, like I was saying, Tommy and I were talking, my husband, we were talking and we were talking about generational curses and, every family line has, for lack of a better word, generational demons attached to it. You can look at that as obesity, or you can look at that as alcoholism or drug addiction or gambling, whatever. And I think that for a lot of people who are waking up now and they're beginning to heal themselves and they're beginning to wake up to the fact that we've been flooded with all these poisons. It's in our food, it's in our water, it's in our air, it's everywhere. It's in our skincare products. And as people begin to digress back to a more natural, you know, um, state of being, where people are starting to grow their own food and they're not buying the packets of seeds from Home Depot. They're buying organic heirloom plants. And so people are beginning to start eating cleaner. And that in itself, just that alone, is helping a lot of these people wake up
Yeah.
because they're detoxing from those generational curses. They're quitting out. They're quitting drinking. They're quitting drugs. They're getting help for their um, stored and unresolved traumas and things like that. And when that happens, and those generational demons are released, it's almost like a domino effect. So we're here now. We're healing everybody from our past, all of our ancestors, all that stuff. And then we're also healing the future generations that are coming, because they're going to come in with no karma attached to them because we have released that. We've
Yeah.
taken that obligation from them.
And what we want to tell you too, some people like me and you have had visions of our past lives,
Yes.
and some people may be wondering how they can do that, or why they haven't seen it, maybe possibly. Do you want to
Or
talk?
have they don't realize it.
Exactly. A lot of times, your past lives, you have these things that you're drawn to in life, places that you're drawn to, um, types of cultures that you might be drawn to that can point you in the direction. But
Very much. Yeah.
we were talking the other day about what we saw, and some of the things we experienced about our past lives were very traumatic. And so until you're ready to deal with that trauma, you may not be ready to deal with it yet, and that's why you're not seeing it. Do you want to tell your story?
Yeah, I'll tell mine. Then you got to tell yours about
Yeah,
the
I can tell
Akashic
my story.
records, okay? Because that is
Okay.
like so good. All right, so if you know me, which nobody but her that's watching this, if anybody's watching, um, if you know me, I have always been obsessed with like the Tudor dynasty, King Henry, Henry VIII, on so down the line, but I never really knew why. And again, I was raised in the age before internet was available into every home, so I relied on libraries and things like that. Um, so all my life, this is so stupid, but it's true. Because I mean, why would I make this up? Okay, all my life I have had an aversion. I love it, but it doesn't love me. Lettuce. I would eat it when I was a kid or a young adult, and I would get violently sick every single time I ate anything that had lettuce in it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I love vegetables. So I would eat it anyway. It's kind of like I'm allergic to tomatoes, but I still eat them,
Mm-hmm.
even though I itch like crazy. Same deal. So years ago, I had a past life regression done, and I bought the CD where I could go back and listen to it because when I was regressed, I had absolutely no memory at all of what we talked about. So I got my little CD and I went home and got home late that night and everybody was in bed. So I put the CD in my computer and I'm sitting there listening and I can hear this lady leading me through this regression and I can hear myself giving these answers. And all of a sudden I was like, holy shit, this makes so much sense. So my name was Christopher. I knew it I said it out loud in the thing. My name was Christopher Blount, and I was a knight around the 1500s, and I was beheaded for trying to depose the Queen of England because
Can
I
you
didn't.
can you repeat that name because you cut out when you said it?
Oh, I'm sorry, Christopher Blount.
Okay.
All right, it was very clear. I said it very, very clear. Um, and I was beheaded for trying to depose Queen of England at that time, which I can't remember if it was Mary or Anne, but it was one of the two around that time. I think it was Mary. And my wife is the one that turned me in and caused this beheading. So I'm listening to all this shit, and I'm like, and I was from Devonshire, Wales, or England at that time. So I'm listening to all this and I'm like, no way, man. No way. No way. So I get online and I start doing some research. And sure enough, Christopher Blount existed. He had a very, very small footnote in history as being part of a coup to overthrow the Queen of England. And his wife, when I looked at that name for the first time online, to me, to my eyes, it read lettuce. Now I look back at it and I'm like, it's Latisse. Okay. It's clearly a Latisse. But to my brain at that moment, it read lettuce. And I'm like, what? What? And I'm like, no wonder it made me sick. She had me killed. But and then on top of that, I looked up the town that I had said I was from during that time. And it's now a part of Wales and it is no longer called Devonshire. I think it's just Devon now, but it's England, or it was in England, or I don't know. I don't remember now, but anyway. So and then I always had a thing growing up. I can't stand anybody being behind me. It literally would sketch me out. I would get the chills. My scalp would crawl. And once I put all this together, once I learned all this, all of that went away. Lettuce no longer bothered me. I didn't have a problem with somebody coming up behind me anymore, because it was the whole, head on the chopping block thing. So it made a lot of sense. And it also made sense why I had always been so fascinated by that period in history without really even knowing why, you know.
Yeah.
So that's how these things can happen so subtly, but then they'll end up explaining so much.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
That's
amazing.
it. That's my story.
That was an amazing story. It really was. I have something very similar, but
Yeah. So you tell that one, and then I'll tell my
but you were
piano one.
but yeah, but you were able to look up the name and find it.
Yeah,
So
that was what that I because this all happened like in the middle. I was kind of going through maybe the whole, how you go through these stages of enlightenment, and you learn something and you're like, maybe I'm just crazy.
yeah.
Maybe none of this is real. And I'm making all this stuff up in my head and none of it's real. And then you get confronted with like irrefutable fact that no, this really did happen. I didn't make this. I didn't know that story. Because this dude, unless you like literally went on a deep dive Google search for him, which I did and found him. But if you just go in and type up, you might find like a line in history that he was married to Latisse, who I can't remember what her last name was, but she was uh, King Henry's niece.
Mm.
So she was the cousin of both of his daughters.
Blows my mind.
Yeah. So you can't say, you know, at that point I had to be like, and that was a very defining moment for me too, I think, on my journey, because there was, I, I couldn't say that it didn't exist anymore, that I
Yeah,
was making this up.
right. Well, my experience is a little different. I didn't go through a regression or anything like that. I had a history before this happened that was traumatic. And as I met my husband and we got together and we were doing all our spiritual things and the third eye opening up and all the Reiki healings we were doing and things like that. And I was doing a lot of meditations and stuff like that.
Keep talking. I gotta step off right quick, but I'm
Okay.
listening.
But I was having a headache one night, and my husband he decided to give me some Reiki. That usually helps my headaches a lot of times, and I was just kind of curious while I was in this Reiki healing whether or not I could get some answers to some questions that I had about things that had happened in my life and the people in my life. And so I asked in my head, I didn't even tell my husband that I was doing this. I was doing it inside my head, but I was asking, why do I have these headaches all the time? Why do I have body aches like fibromyalgia and things like that? I was asking for understanding, maybe could it be, you know, did I do something? Is there some kind of thing that I can do to fix it now, or to cure it or whatever? And also, too, while I was in asking these questions, what I was like, I have this birthmark. My son and I both share a very similar birthmark in our heads. And I wondered, I was like, what is that connection? Why do we have that? Is there a reason for it? Stuff like that. I know people have talked about past lives before, and I wasn't really necessarily thinking about past lives, but I was like, well, maybe this has something to do with past lives, because I've heard that people that have birthmarks and stuff may have some kind of injury in a past life or something. So I was curious.
Yes.
So anyway, my husband's working on my head, and I'm still awake. I'm completely awake. I'm just allowing the energy to go through my head, and I was feeling a little bit better. And he says to me, after I was thinking all those things, he's like, I'm going to work on your past life chakras. Now, we hadn't talked about none of this. I didn't say a word. I didn't even know there was a past life chakra at all. But he did it, and I didn't complain. But it's immediately when he put his hands behind my head, and right in here, around the back of the ears is where your past life chakras are. When he did that, I was immediately transformed into another world. And it was not like I was in some kind of meditative state at all, or that I was falling asleep at all. I was awake, because he said that to me, and I was like basically going, okay, but I was like completely transformed into another world. And I had had visions before. I'd had like a couple of visions before, and those visions were very it was almost like I had tunnel vision. I had like this round, dusty fog, darkness that was around it. It was very blurry, the things that I saw. And it was only a couple of times, very quick snippets of this picture of something. And I don't have schizophrenia. I don't have epilepsy or anything like that. I've never had any kind of weird anything like that ever. I do have a very vivid imagination, so I've kind of chalked that up to imagination, right? Kind of weird. But when I was transformed into this other world, I knew this wasn't my imagination. I was like, literally, my body was in another place. and I was seeing myself walking. I could feel the air on my skin. I could feel I was walking through wet grass. I could feel the wet grass on my feet. And I'm walking. I see myself. I look down and I see like this really long, reddish, dark reddish colored skirt that was almost to the ground. It was muddy. My feet were bare. I was walking on really long grass, like no mowing had ever been done to this grass, you know. But it was muddy too. And I looked up and I saw these shack like, hut like things. They were like thatched roofed things, but I wasn't in any kind of tropical. That's the only place I know where these things would be at, would be tropical island. I mean, that's, to me, that was all that was, you know. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what is this? It didn't look right. It was like not anything I had ever seen in my life. I knew I wasn't near any tropical island, and I was asking my guides, I'm like, where am I at? You know, what am I seeing? And I got the impression that I was in a French Providence or something, whatever you call it, over
Let me
there.
stop you.
Well,
Those, those houses, and again, things that aren't like so prevalent in being able to just Google search and find. Those houses are called soddies or sod houses, and they were oftentimes French. They were always with the peasant classes. I mean, England had it shared too, but they were literally made out of mud and grass on the sides with thatched roof, with
yeah,
basically just an opening cut. So that's your own. So you pulled that out. How would you know?
yeah. I mean, and I love historical movies. I love period movies of all kinds. I haven't, but I have never seen that in any movie that I can remember seeing. The closest thing would be maybe Lord of the Rings with the Hobbit houses, but that wasn't even it. That didn't
Yeah.
look anything like those at all. So it was freaky. It was like, I don't know what this is I'm seeing, but yeah, they gave me French, France or whatever, and I asked her, like, what time period am I in? You know, where I knew I wasn't in the time period now, and I got 1187, 1180. It was a late 1180s, which I have no clue about that time period whatsoever. I couldn't tell you. I could go maybe 1500s and up and know kind of some stuff, but nothing about the 1100 era, nothing. So maybe anyway, and up and know kind of some stuff. But what was that? Did you
My
hear that?
computer. Yeah, my computer just started talking.
Oh, that was weird. But anyway, so I'm walking this path, this muddy path, and I get to this other building, a thatch roof type building, and a door. And I walk in this door. This woman grabs my arm and pulls me in, and I'm scared to death. I'm like, what is going on? And then I'm pulled into another room. And this other room I go into, I don't see anything. It's all dark. Um, and all I know is that the impression that I got was I was going to be tortured in that room. I didn't see anything in the room at all. It was
Right.
dark. I didn't feel it. I didn't see anything happen to me or anything like that. But I just got that impression that's where I was at, that I was going in to be tortured. And then the next thing I saw was a really long curved blade, and it's not like an executioner blade with that short curvy. It was like really long. The blade was, and it went almost all the way to the end of
Oh
the
no.
thing. I
What
don't
are
know
those
what it's
sort?
called.
I know what you're talking about. I'm trying to think the name of them.
And
Cutlass. A cutlass.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I know I looked it up. This was years ago. This was like 2013 or something, maybe 2014 when I had this vision. Um, but anyway, I saw it coming down on my head where I have the birthmark, and I saw the person that was doing it was like, he was masked like an executioner, and I don't know if that was actually what he was, or if it was just to give me that impression. I don't know. I couldn't see the person's face or anything, but I knew who it was. I knew who it was. I also knew who the woman was that pulled me in, but not, it wasn't, in that time period, they were not known to me. They're known to me in this life.
Right.
And these people have caused me trauma. And also, my son was there. I saw him. He was a young child, around the age of 9. I was about 16, is what I was getting, 15, 16. And I saw him. He totally looked totally different. He was my brother. That's what they told me. And that we both met the same fate. They wouldn't tell me why, really. They just said that we were in the wrong place at the wrong time. I didn't get the reason why. I don't know what happened or what we did or anything like that. But anyway, I got I asked, I was like, if this is what actually happened, is there a way for me to forgive these people now so that I don't ever have to come back into another life with them and repeat this? Because I also got the impression that I have repeated past lives with these people for several lifetimes. Several lifetimes. And it never works out, obviously.
Right.
But anyway, so then I was in a different place, and I felt like there was an archangel there with me, which I think it was Uriel, Archangel Uriel. He's come to me before. Um, and I was taken to a place. It was, I was standing in like a pathway, and this round, multicolored, circular energy went down over my body all the way to the ground, and then went back up my body and away. And I was told that it was clearing my energy to allow me to go further. And as I went further, I saw where I was at, and it was the Akashic Records. And
That's so amazing.
I had seen the Akashic Records before, when I have held, what is that, apophyllite? Is that what it's
Yeah.
called? The pyramid shaped stones. I've seen glimpses of that before. As a matter of fact, there's another story that goes with this as well that will freak you out. Let me finish this real quick. Um, so anyway, I go up this Akashic record thing. It's like all glass. That's what I'm seeing, or crystal, or whatever it is. It's nothing, um, no wood or anything like that. It's all glass. And I pulled up to this podium-like thing with a scroll, and I'm given something to write with. I don't remember what it looked like or anything. I just remember I had to write my name on this scroll. I didn't see any words on the scroll at all. I just wrote my name. And as soon as I wrote that name, it would disappear, and then I would write another name, and I couldn't see what I was writing. But then I looked down and I saw it, and it said Estelle, Estelle. And I was like, okay. They give me another scroll, and I have to write my name again, and then I write that Estelle again. And then I get another scroll, and I wrote my name again and wrote Estelle, and I'm all done with that. I'm starting to walk away. I'm being guided away with the archangel, and I'm like, what? Who's Estelle? What is that? And I was told that was my name in that time period, the 1187 time period that I was in. And I'm like, okay. So anyway, we get back. I see myself in that time period. I didn't look like I look now. I had really dark hair and like totally different looking. But I was shown that I was laying in a barn-like thing. I know there was animals in there, and I was dead. And I could see the rats chewing on my eyes, on the edges of my eyes right here.
I hate this part of the story.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
And I know they were nibbling around my fingers and my feet. Now, I have a thing about rats and stuff anyway. Back when I was a little kid, my mom told me a story about rats getting into babies' cribs or something. I don't know. It freaked me out. And I also had a traumatic experience with, what do they call it, opossums. When I was little, a dog that we had got a possum and slung it around the yard, and it had little babies, and they threw them everywhere, and it was at night, so we had a flashlight looking, and they were popping ahead. But I think that trauma was stuck in me because of that past life. Now that I'm thinking about it, because I've always been like, I can't stand mice. I can't stand anything like that. It freaks me out so bad. But anyway, that story I was telling you about with the Akashic Records, before this ever happened, I had my husband and I were doing a lot of work with crystals and stuff, and I would see things, and my third eye was starting to open up, and I was like seeing all this weird stuff. And one day I was seeing these buildings. They were like made out of marble, and they were all carved really ornately and stuff, and I knew that I was on the other side looking at this stuff, and I couldn't figure out what it was. I didn't know what it was. Come to find out, well, we went to Barnes & Noble one day, and I was looking at books, and I happened to find, what's her name? My mind is going blank. What is her name? Sylvia Brown.
I was about to give it to you.
Sylvia Brown. Sylvia Brown, there was a book called, what is it called? Why am I not able to think about this? Let me look it up real quick. Temples on the Other Side. I remember it now. Sorry. I have these moments. I'm menopausal and stuff, so.
Oh, we all got it.
Yeah, Temples on the Other Side. I found that book in Barnes & Noble. We were sitting reading, looking at all the different, spiritual crystal books and all that kind of stuff that day. And I was like, I've never seen this before. And I saw on the side of the spine this ornate carved marble looking thing. And I'm like, that looks very familiar. And I know Sylvia Brown. I've read some of her books even before that. But I had never seen that. That was actually a new thing I had seen in that Barnes & Noble. But anyway, I was looking and I started reading, and some of the stuff that I was seeing in these visions and in these moments when we were working with crystals and stuff, and I was like, oh my God, like everything that I'm seeing exactly what she saw. She's explaining the stuff I'm seeing. So I closed the book up. I was like, I don't want to read it anymore because I don't want to be, I'm going to buy the book, and we're going to continue on with our little spiritual journey thing that we're doing. And then once I feel like I can go in there and look and see, because I didn't want to be influenced by that book.
Yeah, sure.
But what's weird about that book is, bought the book, we went to another state, about 2,000 miles away, my husband and I, and we went to a little thrift store, and I found that book again in the thrift store. So I picked it up as it was like $1. I was like, I'll buy every one of them because there's a reason, right?
Right.
So I get this book, and I don't know, 2 or 3 months go by, and one night my husband calls me up at the job that he's at. He's like, you got to come up here now. You've got to meet this lady. You're going to die. You're going to die. And I'm like, oh my God, what? And he's like, I can't tell you. Just come on over here and meet this lady. So I get to the workplace. There's this lady there, and she's like, I'm one of Sylvia Brown's priestesses. And I brought the Temples from the Other Side book with me that she signed. And I don't know why, I'm here on vacation, but I had to bring this book with me. And now I know why I had to bring this book. She's like, I'm going to give you this book. And she signed it too. She signed it for me. Gave me this book. So now I have 3 copies of the book. One of them is signed by Sylvia Brown. Now, Sylvia Brown was already passed away when this happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, it blew my mind. I was so freaked out by that. But I actually gave the a couple of the ones I had away, and I still have the one that I have that she signed. But I will never forget that as long as I live. And Sylvia Brown, I know she can be kind of controversial. There's some things but all psychics and all mediums are not perfect. Nobody is perfect, and people get things wrong. I know in my experience, when I see stuff on the other side, or if I'm remote viewing or doing anything, everything's a little bit different looking than it actually is in real life.
Yes, yeah.
it's also shrouded a little bit because you're not supposed to see everything.
Right.
And you also have to train your mind to slow down enough in order to see stuff because it does come so quickly. It's just like the quickest snippets sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And it took many, many years for me to get my brain to slow down enough to get the pictures more clear and things
Understand
like
what you were saying.
yeah, because and it's a different world. It's a different state of being that you're in. So it's not going to be the same as it is here. And I think people have the wrong impression about people that see stuff like that because they don't
Yeah.
get it perfect sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think wrong impression in general because, if you remember growing up, I don't know if your town had it, but mine did. Mine had the local palm reader or whatever
Yeah.
and psychic advisor, and she looked the part. And I think what's, again, coming back to this day and age, I think what is increasingly becoming apparent is, for the majority of us, we're everyday people that these awakenings are happening to, and that, the intuition's kicking on and the gifts are coming to the forefront. And we're doctors, we're lawyers, we're leaders in the community and things like that. So, you don't fit a bill. And when you don't fit a bill, you're ostracized.
Yeah. Exactly. Hey, listen, I gotta go take a second break to go to the bathroom. So
Okay.
keep talking. I totally forgot to finish my story. Actually, maybe I should
Ah,
finish it real quick.
yeah,
Uh,
finish it real quick.
yeah, with my past life reading, after I got done seeing my dead body there and chewed on with the rats, um, I asked. I was like, "Take me away." I didn't want to see that. It actually traumatized me to see that a
Yeah,
little bit.
imagine.
Um, but I was taken immediately away from it, and I said, "Okay, tell me what now? What was the whole point in seeing this? You know, to this archangel that I was talking to, or whoever it was I was talking to." And I was told that I had healed that past life, and I said, "What happens now?" And I was taken back into that dark room that I knew I was going to be tortured in, but it was light, it was bright in there. There was a table with food all over it, you know, meals. There was like food to eat, and that person with the executioner mask was there with no mask, and I could see the face, but I couldn't really. It didn't look like we don't look like ourselves in past lives now.
Right, right,
We don't
right.
have
Yeah.
any resemblance whatsoever. But I knew it, in my heart. I knew that person and who they were, and all of us were sitting at that table eating and breaking bread, and about 9 years later, 8 years later, all these people that I had been away from for so long and had gotten away because of what had happened in my life now with them, we were able to come back together in a totally different way, friendly, and it was as if we did actually, or I actually went back and healed
You
that past
did.
life and
You did.
forgave them. I forgave them, and I didn't want to come back and have to do it again. Well, I
Right,
got to actually break bread with them again, just like I was shown, but it wasn't in this time, not in that time. So, yeah.
right.
So that's gonna either segue into your story, maybe. I don't know. Where do you want to go? I gotta
I,
go
I
pick.
got one thing that I forgot to mention though to the collective here. That
I'm gonna go pee.
okay, okay. That so back in the vintage of my years, ultrasounds were not very reliable. They were really just coming on to the forefront of OBGYN. So my mom had an ultrasound because I was supposed to be born with extreme deformities. I was supposed to be born with malformed arms and legs. She had a miscarriage in between one of my brothers and I, and wasn't given the proper procedure to clean her body out. And she actually developed gangrene in the womb. So she was on all kinds of medications and stuff when she got pregnant with me. tetracycline, to name a few, or to name one. But anyway, so the prognosis for my birth was not good. So she was one of the people that was given an ultrasound, and they told her that I was definitively a boy. And lo and behold, I'm born, and I'm a girl. And so she had no girl name picked out. So my name that she was going to give me, had I been a boy, was Christopher, which I still find that hilarious to this day, that she was going to name me the name of the person that I was in a past life. And I often wonder, if I had been born a boy and she had named me that, what path my life might have taken then, because I don't know. I sometimes I just think about that, and then I get my mind blown all over again, that I really found that out, that I really discovered that, and it wasn't just some weird dream that I had while I was being regressed. But before I knew anything about regression, and kind of what put me on the path to being regressed, was in 1999. Let me think. Was it 99? Christmas of 2000. So, Christmas of 2000, I was managing an animal control shelter in North Carolina. And we were dirt poor. And I mean, dirt, dirt, dirt poor. We lived in a house that had turned 100 years old when we moved into it. Um, that literally you could look through the floor and see the ground. And so we had no money, no money at all. I think rent was $325 a month, and we could barely pay that. And I was at the top pay. I was making like $8 an hour, and that was top pay. So anyway, I had always had an affinity towards the piano. Never had lessons, never had one that I could even play on. But anytime I went to anybody's house, or passed by one in a store or whatever, I would always stand there for a few minutes and tinker. But my husband saved up. It took him a while, a very long time, to save up, and he bought me this electric piano for Christmas that year. And I bawled my eyes out. I loved that thing so much, and I would sit down and tinker with it, and I kept playing these chords over and over again. Well, flash forward to a couple of months later, 2001, February 2001. We decided, and it was crazy. It was crazy. But we just decided on a whim, we were leaving North Carolina. My parents lived in Georgia. I've done most of my childhood in Georgia, and North Carolina was just, the economy there was terrible. Um, it, it was literally, everything was a dead end for us there. So we just decided, we're gonna pack up everything that we owned in our car, with our daughter and our two dogs, and we literally left and moved down here. I took a job as a journalist with no
Still,
experience.
I'm still
Okay.
here.
Took a job as a journalist with no experience. It was all, the universe just all unfolded in that moment to make things work. So anyway, I carry this electric piano down with me, and my husband couldn't find a job down here to begin with. So we were like, oh God, what did we do? So I was the only one working, and then he was able to go back up to North Carolina, where he got a job working on a construction site. So I was alone a lot, just me and my daughter. So at night, after work, and after I got her fed and put to bed, I would just go in and I'd tinker on this little electric piano. And again, I was playing the same chords over and over again. And every time that I played, or for the longer that I played, the more chords I would hear. And I would almost hear a voice be like, put your fingers over here and hit all these together, and then move this hand over there. And I would just go with it. I would just go with it. So I went to a wedding shortly after that, and I was sitting in the wedding, and I heard the notes start for the wedding song. And I was literally like gobsmacked. I was like, what? And it was the first bars of what I had been playing. And it was Canon in D by Pockbill, or however you say that name, Patchbill,
Oh,
whatever.
I love that song. I love that music so much.
I do too. But at that point in my life, I had never heard that song. Or if I did, I didn't know that I had heard it. You know, I didn't know what it was. And so I'm supposed to be present in attendance of this wedding, and I'm literally, my mind is like racing. So I go home, I sit down, I'm playing on it again, and my toilet breaks. And my landlord, one of the best people I ever knew in my life, lived directly across the street from Tommy and I. And again, Tommy was working out of state, so I called my landlord, and he comes over to fix the toilet. And I'm still sitting there playing, and it's almost like the room that I was in, the living room that I was in that house, completely faded away. Everything faded away, and I saw this whole excuse me, this whole other room, and it was huge. It was like very European, maybe early 1800s decor, big velvet draperies and like the silk wallpaper, things like that, big ornate candelabras, and a huge, like, big baby grand piano. And I see this little girl, she's probably 12, 13 years old, sitting there. She's got dark brown ringlets, and she's got a big pink bow in her hair. She's wearing a pink frilly dress, and there's a man kind of standing behind her, like over her left shoulder, and she's sitting at the piano, and she's going through the keys on this song, and he's correcting her. He's like, no, more over here. And I knew this was her teacher, but I also knew in that moment that I was actually looking at myself from a past life. And it struck me in that moment because, we know muscle memory is the thing that exists.
Yeah.
But I think that was the first time I ever wondered about um, genetic memory or DNA memory,
Yeah.
or past life muscle memory.
Like
So,
self.
but I literally watched myself playing this song and him correcting. And I also knew that I was so in love with him. And I can still see his face and everything as plain as day. I can see, and I knew that he loved me. And then I knew, like, myself, my current self knew that I would die before we got to the marriage part. And in that life, I got sick, I died. And one of the things that he told me on my deathbed was that he would always find me. But let me tell you the weird thing that I just realized the other night after you and I had talked about this before, right? So I'm like, and I remember his name too in this. But what's odd, I don't know what my name was. I have no idea, but I remember his name. But anyway, what's weird is my grandson has the same name, who has suddenly decided that he wants to play the piano. And I was like, after I had talked, because I hadn't thought about this in years, until you and I had that conversation the other day. It's just part of what now I just consider the path to where I'm at now. So I hadn't entertained this thought in forever. But so I was thinking about our conversation, and then that popped into my head that, wow, I wonder if that soul is a fragment of my grandson now, because he'd always said he'd find me. And
Yeah.
soulmates don't work the way that everybody thinks that they work, just
Oh,
because it was that kind of love in that life does not mean that reincarnate together and you get married again or whatever. It can be your brother, your father, your mother, your sister, or anything like that. But the connection that I have with my grandson, that we are very connected and very intuitive with each other. So it's just very
And
funny.
he's already an old man.
I know. God bless him. But that also that so that whole experience though, that was the first past life thing that I can remember. But that experience though opened up a whole other can of worms for me though. Okay. So I've always, when I was a kid, I was always able to see and hear spirits. But my parents were always, it's all in your mind, it's just your imagination, blah, blah, blah. And then when I was 17, my middle brother got sick and he was terminally ill. And they decided, or he decided he wanted to die at home. And my parents had just bought a brand new house and he had just bought a brand new car and he had credit card debt. So my parents took over his debt plus their debt. And I was the one that stayed home with him. So during that time that he was convalescent or he was sick, oh my gosh, the things that I would see, that would come in, the energies and stuff like that. And watch him have conversations with these beings that I could also see. And so then when he finally died, I shut it all down. I was so devastated, so distraught. I didn't want anything to do with anything like that. And so almost immediately, I had two experiences after he died. And after the second one, I was like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing it. So I shut it all completely down. And I refused to see anything. And if I did happen to catch something, I wouldn't even acknowledge that I saw it. So by the time I moved to Georgia and I'm going through this whole the very first part of my awakening where I have this past life vision of myself. Um, so we're living in it's an older ranch house and it had like two living rooms and my piano was in the one living room. And then the living room where the TV and stuff was in the back of the house and in the middle was the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
So Tommy again was out of state, and this was the first time in my life that I had pretty much lived on my own. That there, besides my child who was only in kindergarten, not even in kindergarten at that point. She went to bed at like 7:30, 8 o'clock. So then I was up by myself for the rest of the time, and it was the longest or the first time in my life that I was ever really alone.
Yeah.
And without the distractions, you know. So I credit that for this next part. So after this whole past life vision thing I have was within a couple of days, right? I get up in the morning, and you know how I am in the morning. I'm not a morning person. I don't function well. And I'm standing there at the coffee pot making coffee. I know. It's the air sign thing. But so I'm standing there at the coffee pot making coffee, and all of a sudden I get this feeling all up my left side or my right side, and I can feel medically I have no peripheral vision. My peripheral I'm almost tunnel visioned. I don't know if you know that, but I can always sense when like somebody comes into it. Even in my blind spot, I know when somebody's there. So I get this feeling that somebody literally physically is standing right beside me. And it's like I said, it's like, I don't know, 5:30 in the morning. And I turn my head and I look and I see that man standing right beside me. And I was like, nope, 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 mm-mm. And then that just opened the door. After that, it was full on everything that I had suppressed in the last, I think I was like 25, 24, 25. So from 17 to 25, everything that I had suppressed from that moment, it was like it tore the doors off and it all came in at one time. So I kind of got thrown into the fire of this whole thing. You
Yeah.
know, went through the whole I'm nuts. I went and seen it. I went and literally talked to a therapist and stuff just to make sure I wasn't losing my mind. Of course, I didn't tell them, oh, you know, I'm having this, but I went through some family trauma and family history and things like that, and did the self-evaluation tests and everything. And then finally, at one point, it built up so much to the point that it was just undeniable what was happening. And then I had the past life regression. And then it was all like, okay, all right, I got it. I understand now. And it's been a roller coaster since then, but it's been a fun ride. I can't complain. I mean, there's been some times where I'm like, ah.
Well, just because we get, or just because we were able to see our past lives, don't mean it made our life any better. It
No.
maybe gave us better perspective and maybe answered some questions, made us
Yes.
feel like we got a little bit of closure in some places.
Mhm.
So don't think that that's going to solve all your problems. I just want to let you know.
No, I mean,
Because,
if anything, for me, it pointed out where I had certain physical issues in this life. If anything, I think that, or where I had like certain fears of things, it pointed that out too.
yeah, and I think the way, if people are interested in trying to tap into their past lives like that, or to start seeing visions like that, or whatever, you got to work on your third eye. And let me preface by saying this: when you open your third eye, you're going to start seeing some stuff,
You will. You
some
will.
crazy stuff. Like when I first realized that my third eye was open, and I had no idea that was. I mean, I knew about the third eye. I think everybody knows about the third eye. They know the terminology or whatever.
Maybe. Yeah.
But um, we moved away from a place where we had well water instead of city water, and I think that was part of the reason. I've heard that the pineal gland becomes calcified with some of the stuff that they put in the water and things. But anyway, I don't know if that's what happened or not, but I know that all the family, when we moved down there, about a few months after we had lived there, we started seeing stuff. We were seeing spirits, and probably the area we were in too was having something to do with that. But um, the very first time that I realized something was wrong was I was laying down to go take a nap one day. It was broad daylight, real bright in the house, summertime, and I closed my eyes. As soon as I closed, I still saw the room when I closed my eyes. It was like I had invisible eyelids. And I was like, okay, so I opened my eyes back up. I'm like, that was weird. Let me try this again. And I closed my eyes, still could see the room. Now I'm not freaked out too yet. I'm like, there's something's not right. That's all I could think of. I was like so shocked. So I closed my eyes again. There's a bug or something crawling on my head, I think.
Uh,
Ladybugs, they're everywhere in this house. Um, got the door open too. But anyway, I closed my eyes again, and I'm like, I'm gonna see if I close my eyes, if I can look around and see everything, or is it just burned into my retinas type thing.
right.
Closed my eyes. I was looking around the room. I could see everything in the room. It wasn't like when you open your eyes, you can see all this brightness. It wasn't like that. It was kind of muted a little bit, but it was still there. I could see it.
Yeah.
So I did not take a nap that day. I did not go looking up why that happened. I was so freaked out about it. I was like, I don't even want to know. I'm like, there's something wrong with me. But anyway,
I've been
so
there.
I kind of like pushed it off to the side. I was like, nah, nothing.
Right.
Kind of weird thing. I'll find out later, maybe. But anyway, wasn't until about maybe almost a year later, I was closing my eyes to go to bed, dark, and I was seeing faces. And they were like coming up real close to me, and then they would go back, and they would come real close and go back, and they had these weird distortions. Sometimes they would look really happy, and some of them looked like they were scared, and and then their face would get all distorted. I'm like, what the? And I'm like thinking, okay, I'm a logical person most of the time, and I'm very skeptical too. I literally am a very big skeptic of everything. So I'm like thinking all the
That's
things
where
that
we're opposite. I'm not really a skeptic.
no, I go skeptic first. I mean, you have it takes a lot to get me to believe in something. But anyway, seeing these faces, I'm like, okay, it has to be, like I know that we've had experiences, all of us have, that when we watch TV and stuff at night and then we go to bed, we kind of see pictures going on. That
Yeah.
was not it. That was not it. It was totally different. So I'm like, ooh, that's weird. And at that time, I was talking to a lady online that was kind of my mentor in helping me understand how to open up my gifts and my intuition and all the things that I do, mediumship and all that kind of stuff. And we were practicing all these different things. And so I got a hold of her the next day, and I was like, "Hey, is this possibly something that's going on with the spiritual thing?" She's like, "Oh yeah, your third eye's opening." And I'm like, "What the heck are these things?" And she's like, "Well, those are spirits." And I'm like, "Well, what? Why do they look funny?" I said, "Why are they like distorted and stuff?" She said, "Well, they portray themselves that way. That's how they feel inside, or whatever it was." She said, "I don't even remember. It's been so long ago." But I was like, "Well, I don't like it. I don't want to see those things." And she's like, "Well, you can tell them to go away. They'll go away." And she said, "That's what's happening. Your third eye's opening." And then I was like, "Well, let me tell you about this year ago thing that happened to me when I closed my eyes and I could still see the room." And she's like, "Oh yeah, that's your third eye. That was your third eye opening." And I was like, "Well, geez, I wish I had known that then." But like I said, I just kind of blew it off. So anyway, that night, I closed my eyes, saw the faces again, and I was like, "Go away," and they went away. And now, since then, I have still continued to see them occasionally. Depends on what kind of mood I'm in. If I'm in a receptive mood, I'll see them. And if they get too scary, I'm like, "Go away." But sometimes I've seen some really cool things too. Um, I've asked angels to come to me at that time when I'm seeing those things, and I've actually seen angels come to me.
Yeah.
Um, but it can be kind of freaky when your third eye opens up. But that I think it's imperative that that happens in order for you to be able to um, access your past life and really find out, to actually experience what we
It
experience.
it can be very, very scary at first, especially like for me, it wasn't even just seeing stuff like that. It was seeing the attachments that people have and things like that. Because, again, this is back when I was working in a newspaper, and we had always had a steady flow of people coming in the office, or, when I was reporting, I was always on a beat. So, I'd go in everywhere, and I also worked all the accidents and the crime beat. So sorry, y'all ate tomatoes last night and now I'm itchy. But anyway, I part of mine was being able to see the attachments that people had, or I guess for lack of a better term, their auras and things like that. So it was really hard when somebody comes in, especially in the event that it's a high ranking public official and you're supposed to be conducting yourself, professionally, and I see that little thing on his shoulder or attached to his holding on to his shoulder, and I'm trying to look at him, but I keep looking at that, and I'm looking at him, and I keep looking at that, and then and you catch yourself. So I think one of my biggest things was learning how to dummy up and pretend that everything was fine, that I wasn't seeing anything, and just carry on status quo. But there were a lot of times where it definitely freaked me out. But now, like the faces, I've seen that all my life. And for me, that now, I mean, and I never tell them to go away. I just let them roll through. But I always seen it kind of like, remember those old picture frames that were on like the spindle and you just flip through?
Yeah.
That's kind of like what I see. It's like a almost like a Rolodex of faces, and they all just kind of, this one comes in and this one comes in on top and so on. But and I've seen distortions, but I've heard two conflicting. The spirit thing is what I believe, that it is spirits, but I've also heard people say that that's actually fragments of your past lives, of your soul in past lives coming forward. You know, but some of the things that I've seen, I'm like, Lord Jesus, please don't let that be me. But I gotta mute and take a break right quick.
Okay.
I'll be right back. Keep on talking. Keep going.
All right. Yeah, I'm thinking about. I'm trying to think of what I want to talk about here, real quick. Um, we'll talk about. I'll talk about the family curse and astrology, maybe.
Okay.
Do that.
BRB.
So,
I gotta go tinkle. So
okay. So this kind of goes along with past lives too. Um, your family karma. One of the things you need to do, and I'm going to make a video. It's a pre-recorded video for everybody to show you how to get your natal chart and for free, and that you can access all your information on your natal chart. But one of the best things you can do is look for your 12th house in astrology and your south node in astrology. And like I said, I'm gonna make a little video to kind of um, explain to you how to get your chart, what to look at, and all that kind of thing. It'll give you a little bit of information. It's not going to give you a whole lot. Um, might tell you what you might have been in a past life, but it's not perfect. You know, it has to like encompass a whole lot of different things, and it's not going to get everybody just right. But another thing that you can do for past life stuff is think about what you're attracted to, like what time periods you're attracted to, and maybe even clothing that you like that is in a time period that's not. I know that I have had a couple of different past lives that I know of in time periods that I didn't like any of the clothing in those time periods. I did not feel connected to that time period at all, other than what I was doing in that lifetime. Um, you could get a past life reading from somebody, and I've had that too. You could try the past life cards that Doreen Virtue has, even though she's not doing the spiritual stuff anymore. I think she's into religion now, but you could try those cards. But yeah, just think about some of the stuff that you're attracted to, the time periods you're attracted to, and kind of sit with that a little bit. Maybe research it some. And, but like I said, probably the one thing you're going to have to do if you want to actually see a vision of your past life is to start opening up your third eye. And if you already have been doing that and you still haven't seen anything, like I said before, um, you're probably not going to until your soul is ready to deal with the trauma that comes with seeing that. Because just like with my story that I told you, it wasn't so traumatizing that I can't get over it. It was actually very amazing. It was extremely amazing for me to see that, and very helpful, cathartic healing for me. But it also was a little bit traumatic too. And I have seen some snippets of other past lives and things that have happened that I saw some stuff that I do not want to see again. Or I did. Um, there one in particular where I was being abused very heavily by the husband that I had in that past life, and I can only get so far in that past life, and then it shuts off, and I don't know if I'm doing it or if it's because they know I can't deal with it or what it is. But yeah, like I said, and also too, there are crystals that you can use to help facilitate that. Like clear quartz is a good one, apophyllite's a good one.
Apophyllite is great.
Yeah, it's one of the best. especially if your third eye's already open. You get that thing and work with that. It'll definitely blow it wide open for you.
I'm having to redo my charging cord situation, so
Oh,
I'm here,
no
but
problem. You
I'm
take a break. Yeah, but like I said, I'm gonna do a little video on that and the family curse karma thing. Now this is more of Vedic astrology, and I like to do traditional astrology, but Vedic astrology does have some placements for the family curse, and so I've been kind of experimenting on the rules of where to find these placements in a traditional astrology way. And so far, a couple of the placements that I have in my traditional astrology chart is actually kind of ringing true. So I'm going to kind of test it, and I'm going to try to test it with some other people and see. Because traditional astrology isn't really talked too much about, like family, grandparents and parents. They're in there in some of the signs or the houses or planets or whatever, but it doesn't really get too far deep. It's mostly in Vedic astrology is where you're going to find those placements. And but the 12th house and your south node are the two places that you can go for past life stuff. Um,
Oh, I love that you're getting into the astrology. I'm almost
yeah,
done. My ring light was using too much power and it wouldn't let my phone charge. So,
well, not a problem. No problems. I'm just going through like the 12th house and there's a lot of 12th house stuff going on right now anyway for everybody. There's a big 12th house thing that's happening right now, but it's all about this house is the house of self undoing. It's the hidden fears, the weaknesses. It's also mystical, and there's a lot of spiritual activity around this house. Um, Addictions, the karma house, all that stuff. So if you do already know your chart and if you have a placement in the 12th house, my my view on that is that you're definitely focused on working on a past life trauma or something about a past life. It could be that maybe you needed to learn a lesson that you haven't been learning from all these past lives, and it just keeps repeating, and you got to repeat it now, but you're really focused on it. Like I have two placements of the 12th house, so it's like double. I didn't learn something.
now, didn't you tell me that going back to the generational curses and stuff? Didn't you tell me you could look and see where those curses lie within your family? Because, like we were talking the other day, my grandmother on my mom's side, I was extremely close to her, and she was convinced. And if you look at some of the stuff in my family, there's some credence there. But she was convinced that our family line was cursed, for sure.
Yeah. Well, like I said, um, the rules to finding the placements comes from Vedic astrology. Vedic astrology is a little bit different than in traditional astrology. They have placements that are just a tad bit different than ours. The whole chart and everything looks different. It's different. So I'm using it on traditional astrology. So I don't know if it's accurate or not. As far as I can tell, what I'm seeing, I'm gaining some information that actually sounds like it rings true in traditional astrology. But I'm going to have to go and do my Vedic astrology thing, and I don't know much about that at all. There are free places, just like you can get your natal chart. There are free places to do a Vedic chart, but then you got to know their rules, and I don't know anything about
Yeah.
astrology.
Yeah,
So I'm
I
trying
know.
to,
I
I'm
know
trying to
enough about
apply.
astrology to be dangerous.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to apply this to traditional astrology for myself to see if it actually works, and then I'll try it on somebody else to see if it works with them, and then it might actually, and I think it will be pretty close because they are very, very close, Vedic and
Yeah.
traditional. Um, I've noticed. I actually have a big black poster board like that I have on my window here that has my traditional astrology, all my placements, and my husband's, and then on the back of it, it has our Vedic charts. I drew all that out so that
That's
we
handy.
like look at it. He actually wanted years ago for me to do an entire wall of all the astrology stuff that I was learning because I have a really hard time remembering stuff. Like I'll remember the theme of it, and then I'll be like, oh man, I forgot what house that was in, or I forgot what planet that was I was talking about. You know, so I actually now have a big notebook that I write all my astrology stuff that I learned so I can find it.
Sounds
But
like my everyday life. I can't remember
yeah,
anything.
and there's also too, just to add on to the complexity of astrology, because a lot of people, they'll look at their horoscope on something and they'll be like, oh, this doesn't really pertain to me at all, and they'll have
Right.
any belief in it. But you have to look at your whole chart. There's so many different aspects in your chart that is makes the whole person. So a general astrology reading is not going to give you everything you need
Right.
to know. And you can go in and get a free thing on your chart, a whole printout, and you're going to see things in that reading that absolutely make no sense whatsoever. And you're like, oh, I would never be that way, or I've never felt that way. Well, that's because it's either a very weak aspect in your chart, or because you just don't feed that part of yourself.
Right.
Because that's what astrology is. A lot of people think that astrology is for predicting things. It's not. It's
No.
for possibilities and potentials, um, because in each sign, in each planet, in each house, we have a positive and negative side. And you can operate on both. You can operate on one. You can operate on the middle. You know, it's not going to be perfect. So you have to know all the placements, and you have to put it all together with one big picture in order to understand it. There's asteroids that you can put in there, fixed stars, stuff that you've never even heard of, you know,
Right.
are in
Yeah,
there.
it's pretty complex. Well, they lost me with the degrees and the conjunctions and all that because I don't math.
Yep.
My brain's not geared toward numbers, so I can do basic numerology, no problem. And they're doing like the astrology. I like to read it. I mean, the sites that you were talking about, have been helpful, especially like with what you said. It's
Mhm.
all possibilities and potentials and what you feed, and you can look at some of those things and say, absolutely, and I don't want to be this way anymore, and then work on healing whatever that is. And I've done that. It's helped me tremendously, as a matter of fact. But yeah, if I had to do it myself, like these people that can create these charts
Mhm.
like by hand, no, I'm not that smart.
No, I'm not either, and I'm
Yes,
real
you
bad.
are. Yeah, you could. You
No, I'm bad at
could.
math. I have an aversion to math so bad that it's like I need an exorcist because I'm possessed. I can't do math, but I do love numerology. Funny that, right? I love
Yeah,
numerology
I do too. I do too.
and I love astrology. Thank God we have modern day computers that do all that work for you, because there's no way. I mean, maybe I could if I had somebody to teach me that could teach me the way I learn. Maybe I have a little bit of a dyslexia in math,
I do
anyway.
too. Isn't
Uh,
that's so weird?
yeah, everybody has a bit of dyslexia in some aspect of their life,
Yeah.
in some area of their life, and they may just be very functional. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not understanding at all. You know,
Right.
but there are aspects in each person's life somewhere that there's a little bit of dyslexia,
Yeah.
and math be one of them for me.
Definitely one of them for me. Numbers. Once I got to a certain point in school with math, it was like it was literally a foreign language, and it's still. So I'm better than I used to be. but I'm still not that great. I'm to the point. I know myself. I know my flaws. So I'm like, you don't want me to do your bills.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jack that all up. So I'll let that for Tommy's got a very mathematical mind.
Yeah.
You
So
know.
does my husband. Yeah. Thank God for them, right? Because
Yeah, because I'd be broke.
shoot,
Broke.
we go to the grocery store and I have no clue. I'm like, I think that was like $5. I don't know. But he's already got it all worked out in his head how much it's going to be to almost the cent. And I'm
Yep.
like, dang, how do you do that?
I know. He's the same way. He knows at any given time what bills have to be paid and how much money we got in the bank versus those bills and all that. And I remember, my mother always was the financial person in our house. My dad was on the road all the time anyway, so she kind of had to be. And so when I got married or we moved in together first, I'm sorry, y'all, I'm not used to talking a whole lot. I'm usually by myself.
Yeah.
But when we first got married, I thought it was my job to step into that same role. So, I tried. I was like, I'm going to handle these bills. I'm going to do this. Thank God for self awareness, is all I can say, and learning yourself because it, when the first bank overdraft notices started coming, I was like, what do you mean I don't have any money in the bank? What are you talking about? Yeah. No, so I handed that over to him and he does a great job. He
Mhm.
does a fantastic job. And some people, and like I said, know your flaws. Cause I'm even like, hey, I want to buy blah, blah, blahs or money in the bank. And I've had a friend, I do have a friend who's like, I wouldn't ask my husband, can I buy it? And I'm like, look, I don't know what we got. I don't know what's due. I don't know how much what's due is. If I want to buy something, the last thing I want to do is mess up the system that he's got going that clearly works by being like, I ain't asking no man. No, bruh, I'm going to ask because I don't want there not to be money for groceries after we've paid all the bills and he's got this much set aside for groceries, and then I go in there and I buy something frivolous as I am known to do and mess all that up. So, and he don't tell me the only time that he ever tells me no is if we literally do not have the money in the account to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I've been told that's abuse, and I'm like, no,
Not for
unless I'm
you.
abusing myself.
Yeah.
Abuse is that I can't buy what I want to buy when I want to buy it because we're broke, and he's the reason we're not broke.
All right. I'm shuffling cards. We'll get an oracle card
Oh, goody.
for
Yay.
the day, for this week, for the collective. All right. Here's what it says. Is that backwards? It's backwards.
What? No, it's right.
Or is
It's
it?
right. Yeah, it's correct.
What if it isn't true?
What if it's not true?
So it says the thing that you are telling yourself right now, the concrete reasons why you think you don't belong, that you can't do it, that you won't get there, that you're not enough, or it's not for you. What if it isn't true?
What if it's not? But okay, so let's go a little deeper into that. Everything's about perception. And I think this is one of the things that I've learned here recently that is true. It's all about perception. And again, it's like what I said earlier. It's not things that are happening to you. They're things that are happening for you because certain things have to happen in the way that they're happening to be a catalyst to bring in new things, new energy, a new way of doing things. So what if, I'm not talking about today's situation. I'm just talking about in general. What if it's not true? What if it's not the worst thing that ever happened? What if it's the thing that's leading you towards better?
What if it all works out?
What? I'm sorry.
What if it all works out?
What if it all works out? What if something goes right? And that's what I really, That's why I said earlier about getting excited about things, even these dark night of the soul processes. When you're at your lowest is when you should get excited, because when you're at your lowest is when you're on the cusp of that breakthrough.
Mhm.
So instead of what can go wrong, what can go right?
What can go right? That's right.
And I'm telling you, I've adopted that. I really have. I have taken that. That I have extreme social anxiety, and I have really adopted, and because I found myself in the last couple of months where I was getting forced into these socially hectic situations where there was no way I could get out of it.
Mhm.
I had to do it, and it was dragging me way, way, way down. And I once I changed my perception of that and my perspective of that, now it's like, okay, this, because I just went through it yesterday and then last week too, where I had to go here and I had to go there and I had to do this and I had to interact with all these people. And normally I would come home and I'd just be so exhausted and so over it and just wrung out. But since I've changed that perception and that perspective, I come home yesterday, I was good. I come home last week, 10 ain't great. So I really think a lot of it is, even though I hated it, I hated the thought of having to go out and do what I had to do. But once I did it, I felt good. I was good.
Yeah, that's true for a lot of situations in my life too. We're coming up on 2 hours, so how about we close it out with 3 deep breaths in and out, and just center ourselves again. Everybody center themselves, and then maybe we can get on through the day. And then, like I said, come back and we'll do another video pretty soon. I guess maybe next week or a couple weeks from now or something.
Yep.
We'll try
Just
something.
know my schedule right now is crazy.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm going to do a couple little videos to show people how to look up their chart. I'm going to do some feng shui videos to explain how to do your Bagua chart and things like that. Just some little
Right.
that people can look at until we can get back in here and do this again. So, all right, everybody, just close your eyes. Try to relax your shoulders, kind of get a little bit noodly. And breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Go in the center of yourself. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Everything's going to be okay. Okay, you can wake back up now. All right, I hope that helps some people. We don't have any viewers. I did see one person get up on there. Maybe we'll have some later.
It'll pick up. Don't worry about it. It
Yeah.
takes a seasoned YouTuber. It takes a bit.
All right.
But it'll happen.
But thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank
Lord.
you. I love you.
I love you. We
I'll
love
talk to you
everybody.
soon.
Bye.
One love. Bye.